Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. All right, here we are. Welcome to the podcast. Tammi, Keech, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much for coming. We had a couple health snafus, rescheduling snafus, and now we've made it months later. This is pretty fun. This is pretty exciting. My girlfriend Jen and I ran into you at the Container Store.
Correct.
In Raleigh, North Carolina, and she was trying to find some drawer organizers because she didn't want to pay me to make her ones because that's more expensive, strangely enough, than the Container Store, which is very expensive.
It can be.
It can be, yeah. And we were looking around, and I was like, there's really only like 4 options. And like, I don't know, option 2 or option 3, we happened to be right where you were standing. And you were like, hey, people pay me to do this for a living. And I immediately was like, stop talking. We don't need any help. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I already told her what 4 things to get. And you two just kept going on and on and on. And then you were like, yeah, you should probably go with the ones for the kitchen, which I was like, yeah, that was option 4. And sure enough, that's what we ended up getting. And I was like, well, do you need a contractor? And you were like, well, here's my card. And I was like, well, snap. This organization is like one of my favorite, as you could see in my office here.
It looks great.
Organization is one of my like favorite things in the world.
So how did the project come out at your girlfriend's?
Oh, let's just, by project, you mean 2 drawers that she put small containers in to organize her.
It's still a project.
It's still a project. It worked out very well.
Fantastic.
It got done pretty quickly. She bought some extra ones even, I think, and put them in her kitchen maybe. So my organization is rubbing off on her. But I say that like she wasn't already organized. She's an organized person, so she was just trying to take it to the next level because I took it to the next level when I put all these little orange bins in my bathroom drawers. But that's more like I had all these extra bins. And I was like, what do I do with these? Because these bins came in toolboxes.
Oh, okay.
I use the toolbox, but not the little bins.
Got it.
And I literally had 40 of these little orange bins that look like that.
Oh, okay.
They're about 3" by 5" by 3" deep. They're for screws and small parts, but work perfectly for a bunch of pill bottles or a stack of Band-Aids or gauze, whatever.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I just like started putting them everywhere. And so that like inspired her a little bit. So what's the name of your company?
Life Simplified.
Life Simplified. That's accurate when you're organized,
And
at least in my opinion.
And I am the boss of chaos.
Okay, there you go. Okay, well, former boss of chaos, I think. So when did you start your company?
It's coming up on 10 years.
Wow. Okay, congrats.
Thank you.
What were you doing before that?
I used to be a social worker.
Okay, that's drastically different.
Drastically different. I had previously worked with children with HIV and AIDS and lived all over the world. And when I turned 40, the grant-funded position that I was under disappeared. And
okay.
so I said, now what do I do? And here it is.
So you were, for lack of a better term, forced into your position, basically vanished.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, I went from full-time employment to unemployed overnight.
Trying to figure out what I was going to do.
Yeah. So was like, the transition, I'm like, piece together the bridge for me of the transition.
There really isn't a bridge, to be honest with you. I've always been a really organized person. Sort of grew up in a bit of a chaotic household with a lot going on, not a lot of organization, with the exception of my space, my bedroom. And so I was just happened upon becoming an organizer.
So when you were young, was the chaos around you like aggravating, and that's what made you be
very
organized?
Very aggravating.
Okay.
Never knowing where my things were, and just always my parents owned their own construction business, and they ran it out of their home, and so there was always lots of people in and out of the house, and just general chaos. And so I decided that this would be a fantastic business for them, and it has been.
Yeah.
So,
because I ask specifically because I share your love of organization and I'm very clean and organized, but I grew up in a very clean and organized home, and it rubbed off in the same direction where I'm like, okay, I saw, my mother's closet very organized, my dad's workspace very organized. Our tools were the only thing not organized, but that was because the like landscaper or whatever my dad hired would just like go take a shovel and then just like throw it back in the shed and not put it on the right hook. So I just curious, like I saw it and adapted it. You saw the opposite and went, I just don't want this. So how do I do not this? And the answer was be clean, organized, put together.
absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you like first start making that into a business? Because like for me, I have trouble understanding how people aren't organized. So I have trouble understanding how there could even be like enough business for a professional organizer other than say like the show Hoarders, which like I'm obsessed with.
Okay.
But that's for a bunch of other reasons we can or cannot talk about later on. But so I just like I get that obviously you run a successful business, but like for me mentally, I just have trouble like wrapping my mind around like, how are you not organized? What do you mean they're not all in the right shelf? What do you mean you didn't fold the laundry immediately? Like that's just hardwired into me. So did you, think like, I'm just curious, like, how does that start? Do you have like 6 friends who are like, oh, I really could like use your help. And it starts off with like a favor, then it's pizza and beer, then it's a couple $100, like, or.
So for me, I had started a dog walking pet sitting business.
Okay.
And so I was doing overnight sitting in the client homes so that the dog was within their own environment and not going to the kennel and all of those things that go along with, people that travel. And one of the things, now we're talking pre-Instacart and pre any of those services, and obviously pre-COVID, and I did a service that I called refrigeration refresh. So folks that are gone for 2 weeks on vacation, I'm staying at their house, I'm taking care of their dogs, I'm taking care of their house. When they come back after 2 weeks, everything in their fridge is no good.
Right, or the fridge is just empty.
Or the fridge is empty. Yeah. And so they would leave me a list, and I would make sure that they had their fresh eggs and their fresh coffee creamer and all of that. So when they came back, so from there, I had one client that said, "Well, I really love the fridge. Do you do anything else?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?
What do you need?"
And she said, "Well, while we're gone, I really would love to have the pantry sorted out." I said, "Of course I do, because any small business, of course you do."
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I started swapping doorknobs in existing and now I build homes. Right. And it was all, hey, can you tackle this? I'll figure it out. Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or I don't, but I got a guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I went from there and I got certified through APSO, which is the American Society of Professional Organizers.
There's actually an organization for professional organizers.
There's multiple organizations.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so like any trade business that has a sort of an organization behind it, that one of the biggest for such a small business as myself is being insured.
Yeah.
You try to get regular business insurance, as I'm sure you know, it's ungodly expensive. If you can get in with a group of folks that are on the same line of work with you, then the price comes down. So there's there's also the National Association of Professional Organizers. There's a professional society. There's multiples. And then there's the international societies.
And do you just pay to become a member?
You can pay to become a member, and then and you can take it in sort of whatever direction you want to take it in. You can either become certified. You can just go ahead and use it for getting insurance, as long as you have a business that's registered. And so I went ahead and I got certified. And then from there, I kind of took my social work background and went about it from that disorganization needs kind of a special hand. Anybody can come in and say, well, I'm going to try to turn that into a Pinterest closet. But if you don't step back and talk to the people that have the messy closet, that have the disorganized, without a systems type of lifestyle, they all sort of have one thing in common. They need help. No one really wants to live in chaos. No one wants to live in trying to find their shoes before they go to work every day, or trying to get their kids onto the bus or off to school or any of those things. No one wants to have that stress, but it takes a lot for a person to sort of reach out and seek help.
I get it. I don't have that direct understanding of your field in regard, but I feel like what you're talking about is exactly the same that I felt when I've struggled with my weight for my whole life since I started going through puberty basically. And family members try to help, go to a camp, get on this plan, that plan, the third plan. But until I, in my early mid 20s, was I just want to do it for me to be a healthier person. That's when I was actually going to reach out for somebody to give me some guidance, because the guidance would be thrown at me and I'd be like, don't tell me what to do ever. Right. But when you got to wait till you're, I don't like using the term broken, but broken down enough where you're I want the guidance, and you go seek it out. And let's use
the term ready rather than broken.
That's much more positive. Yeah. When you're ready to, get your body in shape, your mind in shape, or your house in shape. It's I see the similarities.
Exactly.
So, it's just I think I mentioned before, it's just so confusing to me that you could even let it get to the point where you would need some professional help.
So
but as you said, nobody chooses. Nobody wakes up to a clean house and they're like, let's leave yogurt containers out till there's 40 yogurt containers and we can't see the counter. Nobody makes that conscious decision. They are eating a yogurt and then they realize they're 5 minutes late for work and they got to run to work, and it's just they throw the thing in the sink and next thing you know, the sink's full. And I get it sort of, but it's just
Let me backtrack on you a little bit. The general clients that I work with aren't that bad off. Oftentimes,
I know. I'm thinking of hoarders. Let's be clear. I'm thinking of the show.
You're thinking of hoarders.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
People, contact me. I spoke with a woman yesterday who's they've moved. They haven't really been able to get unpacked. They have 4 kids. They and just, they both work. Kids are all, at this point, they're getting used to a new school system. And they just need some assistance trying to figure out how to best utilize their space. They're not dirty. They're not in need of any of that type of thing, but they just want some guidance. Looking at their pantry, it's a totally different configuration from where they moved from. And over the course of the last 5 years, which is how long they lived in their previous home, they had figured out how they wanted it to work. Now, they don't really want to take 5 years. Their kids are between the ages of 5 and 10, all going in completely different directions, and they just don't have 5 years to put into it. So what I'll be doing with their family, starting off with the pantry, but then working on setting up a space for them. 2 of their kids will be going to year-round school. 2 of them are going with a traditional schedule, which I just can't even fathom. It's completely foreign to me. And so working with families, also working with folks that are neurodivergent, needing to have spaces that make sense to them. Folks with autism or they can't read, or they can't necessarily go with just a direct label that says Barbies. Figuring out what system's going to work for a little girl that mom really wants to have her be a little more independent, but she's neurodivergent. And so instead of putting the term, the word Barbie on the front of this container, we're going to put a picture of Barbie. We're going to put a picture of Legos. We're going to do that. And also working with small kids while you're trying to, encourage kids to being more independent with their pickup after play, using those type of labels. So there's a lot that goes into it, way outside of hoarders. I've only worked with 2 hoarders since I've been in business. It is a completely different mindset. It is, in one case, it was a woman that had lived in a very small 1-bedroom apartment for going on 60 years. And they were getting ready to evict her if she didn't do something about the hoarding.
Yeah, that sounds like an episode.
Right.
Yeah. I probably watched that episode. Did I see you? No, I'm just
and those types of situations are emotionally draining for the person, because they just don't, they honestly don't see that there's something wrong. And they're also really emotionally draining on the family, because they cannot help. There's just, because the person doesn't know that they need help. It gets down to a situation where something is either unhealthy, illegal. In the case of this woman's apartment, was bordering on illegal, because it was
I'm sure it was like hazardous.
Yep.
And yeah.
And so those types of situations, there's so many programs on the television that show these types of programs, but they're not the reality of how most people utilize a professional organizer. It's your neighbor that their garage is overwhelming to them. Any situation that becomes a little bit overwhelming, what do you do? If you don't know how to organize, you call a professional organizer. If you don't know how to change out the little thing in the back of the toilet, I call you. I don't, there are skills that I have, and there are skills that you have. There's skills that everybody has. And organizing is just one that I happen to have.
So what's like, I guess, like, I don't want to ask, in air quotes, what's a typical job like, but let's use that one with the family, with the kids, with the pantry.
Yep.
So is this like you're given an existing room full of all their existing stuff, and to simplify for a listener, they basically said, make it look amazing? Or are you finding a carpenter to build different shelves? Are you getting different bins? Are you just unpacking what they've got? Like, what does that look like?
No job is the same.
Of course not. None of my jobs are the same.
Right,
but like,
exactly.
let's just use that one for an example.
With this particular family, they've moved into a new build, and their pantry it's just basic. It's got some shelves in there, and so what we're doing, and they just brought everything, and there's everything that was in their old pantry just went into their new pantry. In their old pantry, they had a huge walk-in butler's pantry, and so they were able to keep their baking pans and that type of thing in that pantry. This new pantry, not going to happen. So having, knowing that that's not a, so just trying to rethink how they've been using a pantry. So purchasing, giving them some ideas on how they can use this space. Also, that their kids are at an age now where they can start getting their own snacks. There's no reason that any of their kids can't get a snack by themselves, but making certain that there's the stuff that's on the high shelves that we're not going to use all the time. The stuff that we're going to use, on a more regular basis with water bottles and kid snacks and putting things that the kids can just grab on their own on a space that is appropriate for those kids.
Yeah, location is a area that I think people don't associate as much or don't think it is as important as I think it is.
Oh, it's 100% important. Yes.
Like even for me, like in my kitchen, I'm a very routine person personally. So like every morning I have my little greens, my little coffee, whatever. Mm-hmm. But like forever, my bottom shelf of my glasses cabinet was glasses for guests, mm-hmm. and they've never been touched. Mm-hmm. I drink out of a water bottle that I refill. My girlfriend uses a water bottle. My very few friend group, they have a water bottle. Like everyone's got a water bottle. Mm-hmm. So they've just been sitting there. And then the middle shelf is these beautiful mugs that never get used, mm-hmm. except for like once a year, maybe a dinner party. Mm-hmm. And then the top shelf would be my greens shaker that I use every single morning, mm-hmm. and my coffee mug that I use every morning, and the coffee mug I warm up the little bit of tea in. And I was like, one day I was just looking at it and I was like, who lives here? It just hit me. I was like, I live here. Why is it this way? And I took everything out and I made the bottom shelf my stuff.
Exactly.
And then I put the glasses up there and I was like, if somebody needs a glass and everybody's shorter than me, I'll grab the cup. And it just hit me one day. I was like, why is this assembled like a fake exhibit of a magazine, mm-hmm. cover shoot or whatever for a fake Hollywood kitchen? Like, this isn't how I live. I don't have 14 guests 3 days a week. Like, it's just not my life is every morning I need that cup and that mug and that mug.
Exactly.
Every single day. So why not make it organized to me?
Right. So that's where I think that my background in social work really comes in handy for me, is because I don't just pop in and just try to make it look like a Pinterest photo. Right. It doesn't look like HGTV.
Yeah. Not that you couldn't do that,
I
but
absolutely can.
That's half of it. That's half the equation.
I absolutely can. And there are clients that hire me to do so.
Yeah.
My general clients are looking for systems.
Systems.
Making things that are going to work for their family.
Not that you're not really good at going to the Container Store and buying bins, but that's not hard.
I love buying bins.
I'm sure you do, especially with other people's money at the Container Store. Oh my God. I was like, how do I get somebody else's credit card and get to go to the Container Store?
Right.
What a great job. Because every time I go to the Container Store, I'm like, I want so many things in here. And then I hear this tiny little part of my brain going, you have a version of everything you want and none of this is affordable.
So the nice part is that the Container Store, while they are expensive, a lot of the other stores around have started with a better organization department.
I use the Container Store a lot more as inspiration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So and it depends. You can find me at Target getting stuff. You can find me at the Container Store. Depends on the client. Depends on the look that they're going for.
For sure.
Target has, in the last, actually since COVID, has really expanded their selection of things.
Yeah. Well, I think COVID made stores like Target, not that they weren't aware, but they made stores like Target realize, okay, 300 and something million Americans are probably going to have a home office pretty soon. So let's get with it, because that's where the world's going, at least in this country. I mean, office buildings are not reopening at the pace that anybody assumed. And, you know, I so many people who, like people from my kickball team, they were like, yeah, you know, I had to drive to Apex to wherever. And they're like, then now I do the exact same job from my desk in my home. I was like, that sounds great. Let's build you a desk. Right. Like, I know a guy. It's me. And then you can come in and organize it.
Exactly. You know somebody that can come in and get them set up with a system.
Exactly.
For their space. So a lot of what happened when COVID started really was that people either went one way or the other. They went, oh my God, what do I do? Because now we're all in the house together.
Yeah.
And they either bought containers. If you had gone into either Home Depot or Lowe's or any of those places, right, sort of in the first 4 to 5 months of COVID, there was no Rubbermaid to be found.
Oh, the bins were gone.
They were just gone.
The Durham, the Durham Home Depot, excuse me. At the Durham Home Depot, there are 2 aisles next to the flooring section that's just like closet bins and stuff. It was gone, barren.
Empty.
Yeah.
Absolutely empty. Because people needed to clear out a space because their kids were now at home.
Yeah.
And what do we do with all this stuff?
I got an attic finishing job because of COVID. This guy was like, well, I have an office in the dining room. Right. He was working in his dining room, and it's like big open layout. This kitchen's right there. He's got football going on in that room. Like he's got 2 kids, wife's working from upstairs office. And he was like, I need to finish out my attic. That's like a standing attic. I walk in there. You can't move because everything is there now. It's just garbage. Not garbage. To me, it's all garbage, but it was his family's stuff. And he's like, I need this room to be a playroom so that the kids can get out of that room and I can build a real office. And then obviously if I'm going to pay you up here to do this, finish the other half, make a guest room, finish out the bathroom. Like I got an entire job because of that.
Right.
Not everybody has a home. Not everybody has an unfinished attic. Not everybody has the money to do that. But still, that was 100% because of the pandemic.
Right. And I ended up with, so post-pandemic, what I'm finding at this point is that there's so many people that just went to Home Depot. They went to Lowe's. They bought the biggest container they could find, and they just put everything in.
And just threw it in the attic.
And they just threw it in the attic. They put it in the basement. They put it in the garage. And now what they're finding is that they are going to work from home long term. I don't think really anyone thought that this was going to be a long term thing.
No, I don't think anybody could have predicted it, but I think it's the good move.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But so now they're thinking, now what do we do with this stuff? And they haven't looked at it. Whatever, 3 years ago, they put it all in there.
See, for me, that's where I go, did you need any of that stuff?
That is part of the conversation.
I can't tell. I don't know how, if you're like allowed to do that. Obviously, if you're polite, you can suggest anything. But me, I would go, so you have stuff in bins that you haven't looked at in 3 years? Maybe you don't need anything in that bin.
And that's part of the conversation. It's always part of the conversation with any area that we're organizing. What is it? What is your attachment to this? Why do you save it? Well, someone gave it to me as a gift, so I can't get rid of it. Do you like it? No.
I don't accept that excuse.
Right. And
I can't accept it because my mother has tried to like give me stuff and my brother stuff and be like, well, your Aunt Carol's dead and you need this pie dish because it has her pie recipe written on it. And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, I can make pie in any dish. I know her recipe, and my memory of my Aunt Carol is not going to strengthen or weaken whether I do or do not have this dish. You clearly need to keep it because you are freaking out about your best friend who passed away. And like, everybody's got to grieve how they grieve. But this was like a long enough time had passed where I was like, no. You, if you want it, you keep it. If not, get it. Don't like try to guilt us into taking it. Right. And then I've got to put that in a cupboard, and then I got to call somebody like you when I have 25 pie dishes. Like, I refuse to be that guy.
I can go through your pie dish cupboard while I'm here.
You can. You'll find one.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll go through my kitchen and be like, this is an adult who has everything, but there's not an unnecessary amount of stuff.
Right. So it's a huge part of organizing. It's the decluttering and the purging.
Yeah.
That people need help with.
Yeah. Oh man, rent me a dumpster all day. I love it.
Absolutely. I love people that will put a dumpster on their driveway.
That's what this attic guy did. Because I told him politely, I might add, I was like, FYI, you cannot have anything up here for my crew. Like sheetrock dust, painting, flooring, everything's got to go. He's like, I understand. And I drove by one day to like measure something, and there was a dumpster in the cul-de-sac. And I drove by a week later, and it was full. I was like, "That's what's up, guys." I was like, "You probably should have done that a year ago."
So one of the things, once someone's home is organized, and we've sorted out the pantry, we've sorted out the toy room, we've sorted out that master closet that has your suits in it that you haven't worn for 10 years, but you're still hanging on to them. Is
Damn, I feel personally called out about the suits.
No.
I have 3 suits. I don't wear them.
Keep one.
I'm in construction.
All right. Yeah, but you're gonna have a funeral. You're gonna have something.
I know, wedding, funeral. Right. What? So, I throw them out.
No, you just keep one. So we have understanding that organizing is not a one-time thing. It's maintenance and keeping up. And so I love clients that have me come back in and do a quarterly maintenance, especially when they have kids and they're not going to have any more kids, and then their kids outgrow their toys. But parents have a really, really hard time getting rid of toys for some reason.
So do you think that there's the parent builds an emotional attachment to seeing their kid at a younger age with that toy, and if they get rid of that toy, they're like, damn, he grew up and I no longer have that 3-year-old kid, now he's 6 or something like that?
I think that's part of it, but I also think that parents just have a little bit of a difficult time just making these decisions about toys. Kids might still play with them. The way that I kind of go about toy rooms especially is we take everything, we'll put it in a box, we'll put it in the garage. If your child asks for his Batman, he obviously has an attachment to his Batman. You can go out in the garage and you can get the Batman. The 25 other things that we put in a box and we put in the garage that he hasn't asked for, after a month or 2 months, those can go. They can be donated.
That's a pretty good system.
It's for with kids, it's a fantastic system. Or if there's, especially right before Christmas, which is a fantastic time to clean out kids' toys, and because they're going to get new things.
My sister-in-law, shout out Emma Wright, she has a great system where basically every new toy, they got to pick an old one to donate.
Fantastic.
And it's just like, except for, I think, books. Yep. They're like, you can keep all the books. And like, obviously reading's fantastic, so that's great. But like, they'll get a new, I guess that doesn't apply to Legos, let's be clear. The Legos just go into the box of Legos so we can build stuff after the stuff we put together with, when you put something together out of the kit and then it breaks, it just kind of becomes part of the Lego collection. Right. Then you build a city without directions, or at least that's what my brother and I did. Anyway, but it's a great system. Like, they'll get something, I don't know, stuffed bear or some silly toy or whatever, and they'll just be like, okay, go pick one of the ones you don't really use anymore, and she'll just donate it to, I don't know, I don't even ask her, some church or something, but like, it's good for the people she's donating it to. It's great for the sanity of herself, of not having to let it get bad enough to need somebody like you. And then also, like, I think personally, it's probably a good teaching lesson for, a kid to not just have like all of every single toy, right. So he's got to get rid of a few.
Yep. And that's that maintenance piece. And it's the same for any room in the house. I love to suggest to people that once we organize their master closet, that all of the hangers get turned the wrong way on the rod. And then if at the end of the season, at the end of the year, you didn't wear it, if it's not a formal wear piece or a special occasion type of dress or a suit for that matter, then if you didn't wear it, you're not going to wear it. If you didn't wear it this year, you're not going to wear it next year.
Yeah.
And so at the end of that season, and again, that goes back to sort of a quarterly type of maintenance. Same thing goes for your pantry. If there's food in there that you didn't eat, you bought extra things at Christmas, or you bought extra things for a special occasion, and you didn't use them. Now they're sitting in your pantry. The next time you might use them might be next Christmas, but are you going to remember that they're in there, or are they just going to get shoved to the back? So let's go ahead. Let's reorganize. I brought with me my favorite tool for organizing anything. It's a Lazy Susan.
Big fan.
It doesn't allow you to stuff stuff into corners.
Yeah.
I love them in pantries. I love them in garages. I love them in the refrigerator. Putting all your condiments on one.
Oh, the refrigerator. I never thought about it in the refrigerator. I'm such a minimalist. I'm the wrong target. But still, it does make sense. The refrigerator. That's an interesting one.
Yep. With families, I love to use a large turntable in the refrigerator that'll have juices and milk on it, and one that has condiments on it. It's easy to be able to just spin it around, see what you've got. It allows you to quickly look at how much milk do I have? Do I need to pop into Harris Teeter on my way home? Or are we all set? But everything goes back to once your house is organized, once your garage is organized, once your small business is organized, which I also do, is keeping up with it. It's not a one-shot deal.
So primarily, what's your clientele? In my head, I'm assuming it's families.
Families. One of my often sought out is from men who have recently gotten divorced, and they now have a new partner, a new girlfriend, and the girlfriend is just overwhelmed by staying at his new place because maybe they've been married for 20 years, and now he's gotten divorced, and he really never had to think about where his stuff was, or conversely, women that are just getting divorced and they're sort of going through. I just worked with a client that she was married for 27 years and is going through a complete metamorphosis. She's decided that she is no longer a mom jeans wearing, polyester shirt wearing mom. And she's changing over her wardrobe. So we went through her closet and we got rid of her mom wardrobe. But she just sort of needed someone to.
When did mom jeans become only for moms? What's up with that?
Oh, I think they're coming back around and they're no longer mom jeans.
Okay, because I was like, isn't that just like high waisted jeans? Yeah. Like I feel like they're in now. Yeah, that's not a mom thing.
Well, you're too young to have remembered that in the 80s those were mom jeans.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
now they're now they're fashionable for everyone.
In the 70s, was it non-existent, and then they just came into
because it was low waisted jeans and
bell bottoms
and lowriders. I'm not quite that old, but
I'm talking pop culture at this point. I don't know. Yeah. I wasn't there. But I'm a young one.
Yeah, but in the 80s, it was these high-waisted jeans that moms wore. And so that's where the term has now come back around.
No, let me rephrase. I knew it was a thing in the 80s. Yeah. I know where the term comes from, but I'm the one sitting here going, they look great. Why is it like a negative? I guess where'd the negative connotation come from, I guess?
Because moms wore them in the 80s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anything moms do is not cool.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I'm going to remind my mom of that.
Yeah.
Be like, anything you do is not cool. You're a mom, technically. Mom. Yeah. Sorry. Not cool. You think it's cool, but it's not just because you're a mom. My podcast guest said so. So Tammi said so. Tammi said so. It's live. I don't know. Yeah.
And I'm the boss.
Yeah, of chaos.
Yeah, of chaos.
Yeah. Mom jeans fall under the purview of chaos.
They can.
We just decided right now.
They can. Yeah. They absolutely can, especially if you have dozens and dozens of
them. If I pay you to secretly go to New York and throw away half my mother's stuff, will you do that?
Is she home?
No.
Or not home?
Not home.
Yeah.
Just go in the shoe closet and throw half of them away.
Donate.
Sure.
We'll donate. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Or sell, and that could cover your fee.
All right, so I'm off to New York.
You need an address? Let's go. Bye, guys. No. Mom, if you're listening, I love you. I'm just giving you some crap because you're my mom. That's my job.
And you're not cool.
Yes, you're not cool. Yes. I'm not cool. That's all I can think of is that guy. I don't know if you've seen School of Rock.
Yes.
But the Asian dude who plays the keyboard, he's like, I'm not cool. And it's like, you're the coolest. You play keyboard in a rock band. It just cracks me up every time. So, so I guess that surprises me a little bit that you would have, not that you shouldn't for the record, that you would have such a diverse clientele. Because in my head, I'm like, who really needs the most help organizing? And that's like hence your title, Master of Chaos, families have the most disarray and chaos just simply because two people who had a full life beforehand now have to take care of a whole nother person or a whole nother bunch of people, and their other parts of their life didn't stop. So let the chaos ensue. But so I'm just like, dude, so I would assume, but correct me if I'm wrong, not a lot of like single young people hiring you.
I wouldn't say young people. I would say my base clientele is 35 and older, professionals for the most part, working households, and then the elderly, and
Right.
they're especially as they're downsizing,
Or they lose their spouse.
they lose their spouse.
Yeah.
They're downsizing. They're moving into. I'm just working on a blog now about that. About why using a professional organizer is great if you're moving into
So you'll help
elderly.
with the downsizing, like the whole part. Like, hey, here's my house that's not disorganized, but I'm moving into a 1-bedroom apartment in the nursing home or whatever. I'm just making this example up.
Exactly.
And even though they don't need, say, like it's clean and organized, that's not why you're there, but you can still assist in that regard of like, okay, well, let's think about like, okay, you had a home with a garden, now you're in an apartment. We could get rid of the gardening stuff, or maybe are you going to be hosting Christmas anymore, or are we going to throw you on a plane to go to your family? Maybe you can get rid of the Christmas stuff. So like you could help them just kind of rationalize and talk through those decisions that might, solo be emotionally draining because you're thinking about either like maybe the spouse you lost, family you don't see as much. Like if I get rid of this, do I get rid of the memory or the ability to still do that thing? Like I remember we downsized my grandparents, and there was a moment where I could just even as a young kid, I could understand that like my grandfather was never going to use the hammer that we put in his toolbox ever.
Right.
But I just knew that there was something about him as maybe it's him as a male, but also him as a former homeowner. He was clinging on to the ability to use the hammer as an aging senior.
Correct.
And he was never going to pick it up again. He lived in a community where for free in 5 seconds with a phone call, a handyman would show up and do everything that they could ask for. It was that type of Florida senior citizens group. But I could tell that he just needed to have it.
You need
to say he had it.
You need to have a hammer.
Yeah, he used to have 4. He's keeping 1 in this toolbox. And I was like, you don't need a hammer. He's like, I'm keeping a hammer. And it hit me immediately at like 12. I could see it. I was like, oh, he just needs the hammer to say he has the hammer.
Right.
He's not going to use that hammer ever again.
But those conversations with family members, children, often turn into contentious moments.
You see it on Hoarders. I know that that's the extreme, but I see it for sure because you see a rational younger family member who's like, to their dad going, you're never going to use a hammer, call the handyman guy. And they can't rationalize the part of he's not going to use a hammer. He just wants to have it.
Right. And so my solution to, your scenario there is that we went from an entire garage full of tools and let's find a reasonable sized toolbox, and we've got a screwdriver of each variety. We've got a hammer. Even if they never come back out, but you have them.
Yeah.
And it gives Grandpa, it gives Dad that feeling that I can still fix that. And so again, going back to my social work roots, being able to have those conversations, being able to be that impartial outsider that does this for a living. This is, I think that's the other portion of it. It's not just your grandkids are pushing you towards getting rid of this. I talk to people about we started down this road a little while ago of why they're holding on to things, why they're keeping their collection of Hummels. Do you like them anymore, or they're in boxes, or maybe my grandkids will want them, and you have to talk them through it a little bit that. No one really wants Hummel figures anymore. Yeah. There's just no one wants them. So on a personal note, my husband and I relocated to the Raleigh area coming up on 2 years ago. And
where from?
From New England.
Okay, cool.
So, and my husband we just got married. We're coming up on 4 years.
Congrats.
Thank you. He had previously been married, and when he got divorced, he put all kinds of stuff into storage units. 2 full, giant storage units.
I don't even think I could fill up 2 storage units. Okay, I got a lot of power tools as a contractor, but other than that, like, with what?
So there was this oak, one of the oak coffee table. I mean, just 1985 called. They wanted that thing back so bad, and an exercise bike that 1975 called.
Oh,
and
man.
They wanted that thing back. And but they were sitting in storage, costing almost $400 a month. For, I mean, there was some good stuff in there. There was definitely some stuff that kind of needed to be kept. But there was camping supplies galore. I said, baby, we don't camp.
Right. Yeah.
We're not campers. He said, well, I think Stefan might want it. I said, well, let's see what Stefan wants, and whatever he wants, he can take, because we're moving. And so his son said, I've got all the camping stuff I need.
Right.
So we compromised. We still have a tent. We still have a sleeping bag. We brought them to North Carolina with us. I'm hoping in another year I can say to my husband, Michael, we don't camp.
See, I'm hoping that you'll just start going to camping music festivals where you don't have to hike. You drive in and just pitch the tent behind the car.
Yeah.
They're fun. Just saying.
Yeah. I'm just saying I really love a good hotel.
I mean, me too. Let's be clear. I prefer my bed, but I glamp it 100%. I bring a big old queen size air mattress inside the tent.
Yeah.
And then I have 2 sleeping bags that unzip and zip together to form the giant queen size sleeping. I mean, look at the size of me for those who can't see, or because this isn't video. I'm 6'5", like 250, whatever. I'm a giant. Yeah. So I need that, but I'm bringing air chairs that hook into the truck and multiple coolers and pop-up tents. I'm glamping it 100%.
All right.
Yeah. I'm not. Those days of camping are over. I did it enough in the Scouts. Yeah. All that jazz. I did Philmont. That was good enough.
So even in my own personal life, working through my husband's 20+ years of being married, collecting stuff and saying, and he said, well, the kids might want it. No,
they don't.
Your kids don't want it. They just don't. Some of this stuff is impossible to even donate. It was almost impossible to donate the 1975 exercise bike.
Oh, I'm sure it's probably got a rusted bearing, and it's so. I mean, yeah.
And so it's. I work with folks on their storage units. I work with them on their garages. I work with them on their attics.
So you lose me at storage units. I get it. Attics, extra room, I understand. But I will never be able to comprehend and understand somebody who has so much stuff that they filled up their frickin' home, and then they were like, here's a good idea. Option A, purge some stuff. Option B, burn monthly money on a storage unit. I'll never be able to understand it. I needed a storage unit for, I think, 1 week while I looked for an apartment that had garages just for my power tools. Mm-hmm. But again, not junk. Not every day needed power tools. Mm-hmm. Didn't own a truck at the time. So I don't think I even fall into that example. But I can't fathom it. I can't understand it. I love my brother so much. He is my best friend. But that dude has the biggest house I've ever seen, and he has a full garage that's full, and then he has the house came with 5 old barns, and they're all full. He has his old washer and dryer in a barn. He has his old dresser. I'm like, you're never going to use that dresser ever again. He's like, oh, well, we might refinish it. And I'm like, by the time you get around to refinishing it, it's going to be eaten by carpenter ants. It's not a sealed thing. And it's just he's not a bad person. He's a great person. Right. But we just don't see eye to. He's a hoarder mentally, maybe not on the show, yet. But like he can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And he has a storage unit.
It sounds like he needs me.
He definitely needs you. Of course, Emma would be like, I could organize it. That's not the problem. He just doesn't want to.
Doesn't want to part with it.
They don't want to part with it. Yeah. And there's again, not good or bad. This is just differences. I can't understand the emotional attachment he's forming to something he's not using, or even seeing. Yeah. Like it's a dresser,
right?
Or like the dresser, I could almost understand. Like maybe he made it, he didn't, but like hypothetically, maybe you made it. Maybe you made it with your grandfather who's dead. Maybe you want to refinish it and give it to your 5-year-old kid, something like that. Okay, we could have a conversation, but like the old washer and dryer, what are the old washer and dryer doing? There's no way that if the new one that you have breaks, you're not going to put the old one back in. You're going to go buy a new one. What are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing here? What are we actually doing? How long are you going to let that thing sit there till it's rusted out to the point where you go to move it and it breaks in half? Like then do we throw it out, or do you turn it into a fire pit? Like what? There's just a mindset that I can't comprehend. You're right. You are repurposing.
It'll be a very, very different fire pit.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I don't like your justification on him keeping that though.
So. I'm just I try to work with people.
Reuse, recycle. No, I get it.
And I one of the biggest challenges is working with people where they're at. Some people are ready to just go ahead and give me the keys to the house, and literally, last year I had a family that gave me the keys to the house and went on vacation. They wanted me to go through their pantry, their toy room, their 4 kids' bedrooms, and their laundry room. At the same time, they wanted me to set it up. So it was a fantastic project. It was one of my favorite projects I've ever done, was to put on, because the kids were going to be homeschooled at that point going forward. And so it was making a space for the kids, and they ranged in age from, I want to say 5 to 17. And so they needed a workspace that was going to work, and they had this giant open bonus room. And so I actually had hired a contractor. Didn't know you at the time.
It's okay. I'll let it go.
To put in a long desk along one wall that we could put 4 desk chairs at. And then I had painted the big long wall behind the desk with magnetic and chalkboard paint.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this chalkboard paint. It seems like a great idea.
Well, so there's magnetic paint as well. So
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It is. It's a bear to put on.
How strong is it?
It's really strong, actually. Huh. So you have to put it on. You have to put 4 coats of it because it has to go on in thin coats. And it's super heavy because it's magnetic.
Right.
And then on top of that, you can go ahead and then put the chalkboard paint on.
I'm sure it's so good for the environment. Sorry. I was like, there's no way that chalkboard or magnetic paint is a good. How do we make that? I don't want to know.
Yeah. It's just tiny particles of
death.
Of death just rolling on the wall.
Just roll out the death.
Yep. And so just they wanted this to be completely done while they were on vacation.
Do you think the magnetic wall is strong enough to mess with your credit cards or hotel keys?
I don't think so, but
that's one thing they very much do not tell you when you buy a magnetic money clip.
Yeah.
Because I had just money in this money clip, and then I put my hotel key card in it, and on the way from the front desk to the thing, it was destroyed, and I was like, why doesn't this work? Sure enough, magnet, boom.
But doing that project was really interesting because they literally just didn't want, she said, this is the size of the kids, and these are the things. And then the coup de grace was the very end was that they were getting a puppy.
Stack on the chaos.
So that when the kids came back, none of them asked for any of their stuff that I got rid of. because there was a puppy.
Ah, okay. So it's a little bit of a bribery situation going on. Okay.
But so I have everything from folks that really just want to go through every single box, and we touch and we talk about every item that's possibly staying, possibly going, definitely going, to people that really just want me to just come in and just do it.
Yeah.
I don't, none of it makes sense. We moved in here, we put everything in the cabinets, but to bake something, the flour's on one side of the kitchen, the sugar's on the other side, the baking pans are, we don't know.
I mean, I can relate to different clients. Mm-hmm. Some clients want to watch.
Right.
Some clients well, I gotta go to the store. Can you just fix this thing?
Right.
And I'll be back. I'll be like, okay, cool.
Right.
And like, it's complete, and some people want to stand there and ask and like, and it's, oh, what is that? Is that a specialty screw or whatever? It's like, yeah.
Right.
It's like, I should have like a different hour. There's a joke. There's a t-shirt that's like carpentry rates.
I've seen it.
You've seen where it's like if you worked on it beforehand, it's this much an hour.
Right.
If you didn't work on it beforehand, it's less an hour. If you want to watch, it's twice as much. If you want to help, it's 3 times as much.
Yes.
Like if you tried it once, it's 5 times as much to fix. Like it's always hysterical different rates depending on what kind of annoying homeowner you want to be.
Yes.
So
it's very similar. I think that's any service industry type of when you're in someone else's home, what level do they want to be involved?
Yeah.
And it definitely with organizing. Some people just really just want it done. They want it, and they have an image in their mind, and they want me to go to the Container Store, and they want me to spend all of their money and make it look exactly like this picture they saw on the internet.
And is it just they don't have the time?
They don't have the time.
Because if they know you're going to go to the Container Store with their credit card and they have the picture that they sent to you from Pinterest, is it just time, or they just think you're going to do something they can't, or it's just intimidation, or
all the above.
All the above.
All the above.
That's a fair answer.
And then there are people that we don't buy any containers because all over their house they have baskets and bins and that we can repurpose. It doesn't look like a Pinterest picture, but it's going to work. It's going to be functional.
I was going to say function is vital.
Right. So and then there's those people that are in between that they want it to be really functional, but they also want it to look really good. And that's where the Container Store comes in. Because you can go in there. I was in there a couple of weeks ago because I had left a client. We'd done her closet, and we were going to do her pantry. And she didn't really have sort of an idea. So I went to the Container Store, and I took some pictures. I said, here are a few ideas. And we have a 2-week time frame in between when we were doing her closet and the time we were doing her pantry, so she could think about it. So I had all of her measurements, and I sort of had an idea of where I thought she should go from talking to her about how her family works and but just being able to go in there. If I can get people to go into the Container Store and pick out their own stuff, that's great. As long as I always, first thing first, don't buy anything. So one of the things that people often do as sort of I'm going to use air quotes here, a mistake in organizing is that they go to the Container Store, they go to Target, they go wherever, and they buy all these containers. Or they're at Home Depot and they wander down one of those 2 lovely aisles and they go, oh my God, I can use that. My bathroom will be so much better. But they didn't purge. They didn't declutter. There's still a teacup in the bathroom for some reason. But then when they get the bins home, they just put everything in it and they jam it in the cabinet.
My sister needs you. I just realized this. Yeah. My sister, Alyssa, she lives in a tiny little 1-bedroom condo in Atlanta. And it's as jam-packed as it could possibly be. So she needs some purging, 100%. And then she definitely needs some magic organization because it really looks like she's been keeping everything in there for the last 40 years, and she's not that old. It's like, are these your college textbooks? Why do you still have these?
You never know.
Okay, well.
They're out of date, but...
maybe the textbook, but not the notebook.
Right. No, we don't need the textbooks either. So, and it's fantastic that there's everyone under the sun. And I think that's a big reason that organizing appeals to me so much, because every single day is different. Every project is different. There's no two families that are, even if you had a mom, a dad, and 4 kids, and you had a mom and a dad and 4 kids that live next door, their lives are so much. They're completely different. How they organize things, how they go about things. You've got to
their schedule, their food, their schedule, everything.
Right. And every kid is different. How they're going to organize. When one of the things that goes horribly wrong is when parents, moms, dads, grandparents, anyone tries to organize a kid's stuff, because the way their mind works is not how mom's mind works.
Right.
Having this system that says your clothes will be here in this closet and your toys will be here in this closet. Well, that's all well and good when they're 5. By the time they get to be 10, you sort of have to let them have a little bit of autonomy in where their stuff goes and how it's going to work. Making sure that if you have a really, really organized kid, that there's some place that their things can go, that they can be ready for school, that they can be ready for their sporting events. One of the things I love to put together with families is what I call just their landing zone, and having a space that gets each kid organized for the day, gets mom organized for the day, whether that's and dad, and everybody has a certain space that's theirs when they come through the door. That, because what you often see in households with multiple kids, or even just mom and dad, the front door is just a disaster, or inside the garage.
Yeah, if you don't have like what's the term, like a mudroom type of situation, like if you don't have that entryway zone,
right,
it's insanity. I'm just going to use my brother and sister-in-law once again as an example, because they're the closest people I know who have 3 kids.
Right.
They're very organized, but like they're very organized is still 3 small children, all 5 and under. So that organized is still chaotic. Like there's no way around it.
Right.
They do an 11 out of 10 job. Keeping it organized, keeping their kids are incredible. Their life's amazing, but like it's still chaos and it's a lot of hard work. And they didn't have somebody like you come in, my sister-in-law and mostly my sister-in-law, because my brother's, working an 8 to 5 every day. She slowly, tried it this way, then tried it that way, and then tried it this way. And now it's at the best way. And so it just like, they skipped the steps of, getting someone like you in there, but it's a similar process of, what's the term, like trials and tribulation of just like
trial and
error, you know? And I mean, back when you were talking about like, the person who's like, I want it to be a Pinterest catalog where we can use all of their baskets. I get that. I'm right in the middle. Like I'm function over everything, but stuff still has to match.
Right.
Like you open not this closet, but that closet with the laundry room, and there's a rack I built with 5 bins, and you bet your ass they're all Rigid brand bins that I bought at Home Depot because I had 3 and room for 5, and I went and bought 2 more, and there you go. And, does it work out perfectly? Yes. But like, did they have to be those bins? Absolutely not. Yeah. But I wanted them to be because I like stuff to match, Yeah. But, that is, I think, a personality thing probably as well. Just like you have so many different personalities dealing with so many different needs.
Right.
That's, I guess, why you said, there's no 2 projects.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right.
So if somebody needed your services, how do we get in touch with you?
You can go to my website, which is lifesimplifiednc.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, under Life Simplified. You can call me, area code 603-620-1602. You can email me at bossofchaosnc@gmail.com.
There you go.
All
you
right.
heard it here first. And one generic, simple advice for somebody very intimidated about their cluttered and unorganized life, but doesn't have the resources to hire you, what would we tell them? Where could they start that's not so overwhelming.
One small drawer.
One small drawer.
Yep.
Just pick the junk drawer and
start with the drawer
and purge it.
Purge, declutter, start over. Yep.
And my advice would be buy a label maker. They work wonders.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
This was a lot of fun. I hope everybody enjoyed. As always, you can find the Orange Hammer podcast on Instagram, Facebook. Shoot me an email, text, call, whatever. Come on the show. Give me a topic you want to talk about. All of the above. And Tammi, just thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.